Welcome back to the Talk Healing TV podcast. I'm your host, Karen Dwyer, and today's mini episode is not your average recap. It's a reverent pause to acknowledge the voice, the truth, and the raw power of someone I am very proud to call one of my best friends, Nina Aouilk. Now, Nina's story isn't easy. It's not the story we're used to in hearing shiny, sanitized wellness spaces, but it is the truth many turn away from because it's brutal, it's real, and it's heartbreakingly close to home. In this episode, we reflect on our conversation where Nina shared the unflinching truth about honour based abuse, childhood trauma, forced marriage, and systematic silence. But we also celebrate something else, her rise. Because Nina is not just a survivor, she's a life saving, law changing, stage taking force of nature. And from being voiceless and abused to becoming a voice for millions, she reminds us of what strength looks like when it is laced with love. Now, let this serve as a condensed soul download, pulling out the truths we must hear, the questions we must ask, and the courage we all need to embody if we're going to create change in our own lives and the world around us. And if you're new here, please listen to the full conversation with Nina. It's one of the most important episodes we have ever done. So here's the 10 deep takeaways from Nina's story, okay? The truth about what we don't want to hear, but we must. All right. I'm going to give you a trigger warning for this episode. There are some very deep issues that we spoke about, and I think we deal with them very gently and very generously on Nina's behalf. So just be warned. And we will put some notes in the bottom that if you need any support with any of these issues, there are links in the show notes that you can turn to if you need any support. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult your doctor. Views shared are personal and not a substitute for professional guidance. So the first point was abuse doesn't only happen over there. It happens in homes like yours and mine. And Nina's story dismantles the dangerous myth that abuse or forced marriage or honour based violence are distant issues. So her experiences happened in a British town, in a well respected family behind a neat front door. And this illusion of normality is what kept her invisible for so long and what keeps so many others in silence. So we must stop assuming that abuse wears a visible face or speaks a different language. Often it's happening much closer than we think. And I have to be honest, that was my view of it. It's somewhere over there. It doesn't happen near me. That's the stuff that you see on the news or in a movie. But it's terrifying that it's not. It's happening all around us, unfortunately. The second point is that we must challenge what we've been conditioned to stay silent about. So Nina was taught that speaking up was shameful, that her keeping quiet was noble, and that surviving abuse was her burden to carry alone. But actually, by telling her story publicly, she shows us that shame dies when stories are told in safe and brave spaces. So speaking up is not betrayal. It's the beginning of healing for ourselves, but also for the generations after us as well. The third point is kindness saves lives, often in ways we don't realize. So, a stranger handing Nina a cup of tea after a traumatic abortion, a woman stroking her hair for the first time in her life, and a friend who opened their home when she was sleeping rough. These seemingly small moments became lifelines, and they grounded her and humanized her and reminded her that she mattered. So if you're wondering how to help, start with kindness. You never know when one small thing might just change everything for someone. That really broke my heart when Nina was talking about that lady afterwards giving her the cup of tea and putting her hand on her hair, because you can see it, and you can only imagine that young version of Nina not having had any parental love or support or connection from anyone around her. And for someone with such a small gesture could have such a pivotal mark on someone's life. And this is, tens and tens of years later that Nina still remembers that vividly. The fourth point was healing takes honesty and time. So Nina didn't heal in a straight line. She tried to bury her pain and push it away and pretending that it didn't happen. And yet it followed her until she faced it. And her story reminds us that healing isn't a performance, it is a reclamation. It's the slow, sacred act of turning toward your truth and one memory and one boundary at a time. And that can be so uncomfortable. I can only imagine the absolute fear of even allowing your brain to go back to that memory. And I have to be honest, even in the lead up to this podcast episode, the minisode and the real one as well, I had all sorts of emotions about not wanting Nina to even be able to or to have to go back there and think about those memories again or have her feel that upset and discomfort because no one wants to think about going back to that place. And yet I also acknowledge that it has helped so many people. But if I imagine it's just me, a white woman named Karen, yeah, asking Nina about these questions and having her go back and reminisce. All feelings of heaviness. And I'm sure, and I spoke to Nina back and forth today and just checking in on how she's feeling after the podcast episode. And one of the things she said, it takes her a little while after, going back there to shake off those feelings and not even shake them off. That seems like such a dismissive way to call it. But Nina's doing so brilliantly now. But when you go back there, of course, it really takes something when you're talking about those things again. And even from a physiological point of view, your nervous system then that has an impact on it as well. So I really, really am so grateful for Nina for continuing to share her story in pursuit of helping others. This episode of Talk Healing to Me is sponsored by Clean Boss, created by Joy Mangano, the legendary inventor behind the Miracle Mop and a pioneer in clean innovation. Clean Boss is a botanical disinfectant that kills 99.9% of viruses, germs, and bacteria. It's safe for food surfaces, soft surfaces, and baby high chairs with no toxic ingredients and no rinse required. It's also a degreaser, odor eliminator, and all-purpose cleaner that works as hard as the chemical-heavy stuff without the health risks. Check it out at getcleanboss.com/Karen for a clean, better, and living safer life. The fifth point is support doesn't always look like rescue. It can look like presence. So Nina didn't need someone to fix her. She needed someone to see her. And now through her own nonprofit, she offers that presence to others. She shows up in the moments when others turn away, or whether it's sitting with a frightened child holding space for a stranger to cry, or for that kid that just wanted his toys. She embodies what true support means: consistent, compassionate presence, no savior complex, just soul, and being there with someone. The sixth point was social media can be more than noise. It can be a lifeline. So Nina has a complicated relationship with social media, but there's no denying its impact. One of her videos that went viral has reached over 25 million in 3 days. That reach wasn't about likes or clout. It was about resonance. And it helped girls escape abuse, helped mothers understand their daughters, and helped entire communities begin to change. And this is what happens when social platforms are used to tell real, raw truths. The seventh point was the justice system still fails survivors, but it doesn't get the final word. So, from police turning her away to health professionals ignoring her signs of abuse, Nina has seen the systematic cracks firsthand. But instead of surrendering to that brokenness, she stepped up to become part of the solution. And today she trains police officers, advises Scotland Yard, and sits on government boards. And she's turned injustice into instruction. And now others are learning from her lived experience. So very cool. The eighth point is there is no timeline on reclaiming your life. Nina didn't have her breakthrough in her teens or her 20s. She rebuilt her life in her 40s and 50s. And she started again whilst raising 3 children, carrying trauma and figuring it out one step at a time. So there is no such thing as too late. If you're breathing, you can begin again. And healing really doesn't expire. That was so inspiring what she said. The ninth point was you don't need a polished version of your story to make an impact. So Nina started by sharing raw, unfiltered videos. No production, no team, just truth. And her voice shook. Her pain cracked through, but people really listened. And why? Because it was real. In a world addicted to perfection, vulnerability cuts through all of that shit. You don't have to be healed to speak. You just have to be honest. And the 10th and final point is one person believing in you can change everything. And so for Nina, that was her dog in the darkest moment. And later it was a woman at a refuge, a kind stranger at a clinic, a friend with a spare room, a son brave enough to ask for help. One act, one voice, one belief. That's all it takes to interrupt a lifetime of pain. And so you can be that person for someone. Or if you're the one waiting, know this, they're coming. And maybe that's the biggest reminder of all. It only takes one person to believe in you, one act of courage or a moment of kindness, or one choice to say, I deserve more than survival. And Nina's story is proof that healing is possible, even when it feels out of reach. And that's exactly what we see week after week with women showing up and choosing themselves and making those brave moves towards something better. So I'm going to take a moment to celebrate just a few of our incredible clients this week, okay? So C was able to, uh, oh, actually, with her own dog, go to a 3-day agility show, 2 days work in the ring, party, and 1 day competing. And her doggy won his class and moved up to grade 3. How very cool is that? Jay has been using her exercise bike and cycled 3 kilometers today and feeling fantastic afterwards. Elle went for a walk this morning with herself and her rollator and had a lovely moment meeting a neighbour on the way. Travelled for 2.5 hours to Boise, I hope I pronounced that right, and spent 4 hours on her feet walking and shopping. Such great stamina and self celebration. Kay is still showing off consistently with her movement and her amazing, amazing work. Especially she's got young kids and off during the summer and trying to juggle everything, and her car is broken at the moment as well. So I know that there's a lot of really brilliant stuff going on behind closed doors there. S said she is noticing more energy in her day to day, a huge sign that the shifts are adding up. And B shared her right arm is feeling stronger with regular weight training and progress that she can feel. And lastly, T has been sitting outside in the morning sun for 15 to 20 minutes daily, and it's already improving her sleep. And if you go back to some of the other episodes where we talked about that, we talked about it with Valeria and balancing hormones. We talked about it with Anne Marie and around sleep. That morning sunlight is so, so important. So, if Nina's story has moved something in you, please don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode, start the conversation. And if you're someone who's living in silence right now, know that there is always a way out. We linked Nina's TED Talk, her book, her nonprofit, and her contact details in the show notes. And to Nina, thank you for your strength, your softness, and your soul. And you're not just healing, you're rewriting so many other people's rules of survival. Until next time, stay fierce and stay soft and keep talking healing to yourself. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our sponsors of this episode. You can visit getcleanboss.com/Karen. And also a thank you to our video and podcast producer and editor, Aoife McNamara at Imagine Media. Thank you.